Louise Pitcher, and I believe that authentic cross-racial relationships are possible and valuable. Growing up in a biracial family, you would think that I would have developed a mentality of equality and tolerance for other cultures and races. However, I found that this was not the case, and I believe that this was due to the environmental influences I had growing up. Growing up, I lived in communities that were dominantly white, so it wasn't surprising for me to find that I had adopted ideas of white supremacy and a slightly racist mentality. However, I found that I wasn't as extreme as the other members of my community, and reflecting on this, I believe that it was due to my childhood best friend, Sydney Hayes. I remember the first time I met Sydney. I had just moved into a new house, in a new neighborhood, in a new state. And needless to say, if I hadn't had my little sister, I would have been a pretty lonely child. But one day, I was exploring the neighborhood, and I felt this tap on my shoulder. And as I turned around, I saw Sydney standing there with the biggest smile I had ever seen. And as soon as we made eye contact, she just screamed, "Hey, you wanna go play?" Excited to have made my first friend, I grabbed her hand. But I soon came to find that Sydney was part of the only African American family in our entire city, and that soon our newfound friendship would gain some serious attention from the neighborhood peanut gallery. And unfortunately, it wasn't too long after that the other neighborhood kids would come up to me, and they would all ask me the exact same question. "Why are you hanging out with that black girl?" Being as little as I was, I never understood the true meaning behind their question. And honestly, it just left me dazed and confused. That out of anyone they could have possibly chosen, they chose my friend to pick on. Later on, I remember telling my dad about what the kids had asked me. I also remember the concerned look on his face as he had to tell me that those kids judged a book by its cover, and that they only saw Sydney in the light of how society wanted us to see her, instead of just taking the time to stop and flip through her pages to see who she was as a person, versus only her stereotypes. Back then, I didn't understand the power of the message my dad was trying to teach me, until my first year here at UW-Madison. Years after, I moved away, and contact with Sydney had faded. And it seems like the message my dad was trying to tell me had, once again, been lost to the racist views that society had fed me. However, once again I found myself in a new dorm, in a new city, in a new state, and I was eager to make some new and lifelong friendships. However, I found that this wouldn't be as easy as I thought, especially as the professor on my first day in my first class in my new school told us all to get into groups. And it was with this action that I was able to experience the feelings associated with being stereotyped and discriminated against because of those stereotypes. And let me just tell you, it really sucked. Walking away from that class, I can remember being lost in this cloud of confusion, anger, and sadness. And in the midst of my thoughts, I had remembered Sydney and the concerned look on my dad's face when he told me that people judge a book by its cover. The rest of that day, I spent lost to my memories of Sydney and how our friendship evoked some of my most cherished childhood memories. She was my sanctuary in a new place, the source of almost all of my childhood merriment, but most importantly, she was my greatest teacher. Without Sydney, I would have never gotten over society's influence that pushed me to judge people based on first glance appearances. And if I had never done that, I would have never taken the time to get to know some of the greatest friends I've made here at UW. And for that, I'll always be grateful for Sydney, our friendship, and how it's made me who I am today. I'm Louise Pitcher, and my story challenges the belief that we have nothing unique to offer each other.